in today's video, we'll be talking about Bittensor TAO. You can argue this one has been long overdue. In my last TAO video, and something I've mentioned several times, is that the next time I give a bullish update on TAO, it's gonna be when it hits $1,000. That has not happened yet, so I did lie. That said though, some very big things have happened, and so I'll make the case for it this time around and make that video. As a lot of you know, TAO has been the biggest high conviction bet on this channel that has not changed since October 2023 and still very much remains the case. Since we've been talking about TAO on this channel, we rode it up to over 700 all-time highs, back down to as low as 200, again back up to 750, and then after that another low down to 200. But in my opinion, this is what crypto and conviction is. Anyone saying that you're supposed to sell on these pumps is lying to you. There is no feasible way to time any of these tops or bottoms. It's very easy and convenient to say in hindsight, but at that moment, no one is doing it. And if, in my opinion, the end game is in the thousands, then I need to hold through whatever volatility is thrown at me until then. That is what crypto is. Once again, no one can time any of this. So why are we now acting like that's a thing? And so I understand that a lot of you may be mad that you didn't sell in March or in December, but there's a reason you didn't sell. You had conviction. Now, if your conviction was in a token that didn't deserve it, then that's different. That means you built the wrong conviction. Once again, my conviction in this token is that it's going to go up to the thousands. And anyone who's going to knock you for holding through these drawdowns until then, quite frankly, doesn't know what they're talking about. And for me, if that doesn't happen, then I'm wrong. But that is what conviction in crypto is. A good amount of you might remember this, but in one of the last TAO videos, I said that these different AI projects, like Near, like ICP, like Render, like Fetch, whatever it is, they're good. Don't get me wrong, but there's no point in holding them because if Bittensor is going to end up the number one AI crypto, then you're better off holding that. And now we're starting to see that materialize. In fact, not so long ago, TAO did flip near in market cap. While I'm recording, it has gone back under, but it's still the same idea. By the end of this cycle, TAO convincingly ends up the number one AI coin. And for anyone doubting it before, well, I hope for their sake it's becoming a lot more clear now. So I know for this channel, it's finally good to start seeing this materialize. And frankly, I expect it to be quite the big gap by the end. Now, if you're in crypto, you've probably heard of it, but the Bittensor network recently had its biggest change in introducing dynamic TAO. The last time it was the introduction of subnets back in 2023. In my opinion, dynamic TAO has the possibility to be as great. The Bittensor network was having quite a few issues, a lot of challenges and worries about the integrity of the network, malicious actors basically mining the token or getting a share of it and then dumping it, not really caring about the network. The whole idea of dynamic TAO was basically to weed those individuals out, basically constrain them so much that they could no longer operate and let those actually putting up insane models survive and thrive. And even though I have a huge bias, even I have to say that I'm pretty surprised with just how well it's working, which makes me very optimistic on the prospects of the network. And to be frank, the most successful crypto had a lot of these worries before. Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum. And in my opinion, it's always good if the network goes through that because those can be seen as inflection points where if it doesn't overcome that, then in hindsight, that's still good. You wouldn't want something like that to get too much market dominance where if it's exploited, it brings a lot of stuff down with it. But if it can then overcome that adversity, it makes it a lot stronger going forward. And so dynamic TAO is sort of the fix for that. And it seems like it's pretty successful so far. Each of these subnets have their own token, and that subnet token is weighted against native TAO. Now it is pretty degen, but there is a lot of opportunity here. I have an exclusive Discord where we've been trading these subnet tokens, where from the original prices I gave some of these subnet tokens, they did huge gains. For example, hitting a 5x on subnet 21 Omega to any, a 7x on Subnet 8 proprietary trading network, a 5x on Subnet 32 its AI, and another 5x on Subnet compute, and a list of a whole bunch of others where it's kind of just starting. And these are just small gains compared to where I think they can get to. So if you want to get to know more about these subnets and are interested in joining the Discord, there is a link in the top of the description where we've been hitting big on a bunch of these subnet calls and will continue doing so. Remember, the channel was very early on AI agents on Solana and now with Bittensor subnets as well. And in the Discord, it's not just Bittensor, but basically everything crypto, where we give some degen calls as well on Solana, recently just hitting a 4x on my AR and another 5x on SSE. There's also the Pain edition of the group, where on top of all this alpha, which comes in the standard, you get a one-on-one call with me, where we can talk about your portfolio and any other questions you have going into what I think will be a very aggressive altcoin end to this cycle. Spots are limited, so if you're interested in joining, once again, there's a link in description. To me, I think Bittensor and AI is a no-brainer. It's been that way since the beginning. Every conclusion I could come up with, it was always TAO at the end. I understand that now I obviously have a bias given that I hold so much. But you have to realize there was something that led me up to that conclusion. And again, I think the market is now starting to realize that. Frankly, these other AI coins, at this point especially, they cannot hang. They've had more than enough time. And near ICP, Fetch, I feel like they've sort of used up their bullish catalysts with their link to AI. Going forward though, there has to be results. And quite frankly, none of these projects come close to Bittensor. And so my opinion has always been that if the markets are bullish, which at this point I still think they are, and AI is the biggest narrative of this cycle, which I still think it is, then what is the top AI play? And if I haven't made it clear, I think it's very obvious at this point. On top of that, we finally got the Coinbase listing coming up for TAO. Big thing everyone's been talking about. I think the fact that we're getting it now and not in the middle of the bull run where it probably would have marked a top is extremely bullish. For example, the fact that the coin gets listed during this timing and not during the aggressive run where things are very bullish and sentiment is very bullish, where during that time it probably would have been a sell the news event marking a top. Now we're getting it as fuel before that unfolds. And quite frankly, the charts are very telling as well. TAO is the only major AI coin still holding more than its 50% drawdown level. So from the top that it made, its all-time high, it is currently 43% down, which is still quite a bit. 43% is definitely not the most bullish thing in the world. But then when we consider something like Fetch, it's still 70 to 80% down from all-time highs. Near Protocol is down 60% from its current cycle highs. Render is down 70% from all-time highs. ICP also down more than 60% from current cycle highs. Now, in my opinion, TAO is the clear winner in terms of these AI majors. But what about compared to the AI agents? In this past run, agents stole the AI bid. Although these deepen projects pumped quite a bit, for example, like AOs, they didn't pump as much as people expected. And again, that's because these different agent coins stole a lot of that novelty and liquidity if markets are still bullish and AI remains the main narrative, which I think it will. I do not think that the extent of that bid will return to these AI agents the way that they did. Agents are still a very big deal. They will still get bought up, but they won't be an AI liquidity black hole like they were. So Deepin really struggled during that time. I don't think it struggles the same way. So if you're holding things like Grass or Aether or whatever it is, I think these projects will have a better chance of running in the upcoming run. But yet again, I think that's a pretty bullish outcome for Bittensor. So that was just a little update on Bittensor, what I'm thinking, which is pretty much the same thing that I've always been. I think end game, this turns out to be a very profitable trade. Conviction is needed in crypto. All of a sudden, we have people talking about treating this cycle differently and potentially taking profits for smaller cycles, whatever it is. We'll see how that turns out because it'll be settled regardless, no matter what the environment is. I'm very bullish TAO. Now, my exact targets I cannot reveal. That will only be for people in my group where during that time they'll get sort of live coverage of when I'm selling, when I'm scaling out, stuff like that. But I will say that the next time I talk about it will be at 1,000, and this time actually. Until then though, sitting tight. And so that you don't miss that video, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you guys soon.